Hello all, I hope you're doing well. This has been brewing inside me for a few weeks now, and I wanted to do the video. And I think what just pushed me a little bit over the edge is yesterday, as many of you maybe have seen on social media, is Twitch. Can't claim to know a ton about him, but I know that he was a DJ and a dancer for the Ellen DeGeneres show for, I believe, like maybe 10 years, and that's just a portion of his what he did in his life and so forth. But he seemed, what I gather from the consensus and kind of seeing a few things, is he was a vibrant soul and, seemed happy and spreading lots of love and so forth. And so I think it came as a shock that he ended up by taking his life. And so that being said, again, kind of my own reflections as I recover and work through having had cancer and all that there, I think the big thing that I've been sitting with me the past few weeks and kind of made me kind of go, okay, great, I have to do this video today, is, I have had to reflect. I tend to not just accept certain things and want to look a little deeper, just kind of a seeker. And for my own self, like, how did this happen? How did I end up in this position? But there's that end of it. And so health-wise and environmentally, like what's going on, and, reading and researching and different opinion leaders in the space, be it medically and holistically. And one thing too is, I've seen a lot when it comes to spiritually, people kind of reflect and certain things that were in place. And I go, well, what was happening in that period when I got diagnosed that kind of just exploded? And what are the things that I can do to best set myself up for success in the future and remain in remission? And one thing I noticed is during that time I was so stressed. There's lots of moving parts going on. I tend to be one of those people who's like, I just want to do it all and, have ambitious goals and, in all different areas. And so I was trying to juggle so many things, and I think that just ended up by breaking physically. And so that's one thing I had to evaluate. And part of that is, I think the mindset, I was talking with my sister and I was like, I think this is so important that people understand. And I have had to realize, and as I venture into going back to different things, it's like, I can't go back into that. And I think it was always like, oh, once I hit a certain point, I'll do this. Or once I hit, this goal, then I'll be able to do this, and this, and this. And a lot of it dealing with self-care. Like, I had backed away from working out. I was only, doing 1 day a week when it came to working out, walking, extroverting, doing those kinds of things. It was just like grind. And there's no more, that's my goal, is like, there's no more of that. It's self-care is so important. And I think as artists, we have so many ambitious goals. And there can be so many things that are perceived. I think sometimes we forget when we hit certain goals. Like for me, I'd always have that goal of like getting a song in a show, a trailer, a movie, whatever. And I hit that, and I think I just kind of went forward. I didn't take I was happy about it, but I didn't necessarily, for me, it was like, oh, cool, now it's the next thing. Rather than soak in that moment and really be happy with that moment. And so I think what happens, especially with ambitious people and people who love to help. I mean, I love to help, not only being an artist, but I've been a coach for so long, and that's so important to me, and helping others and giving the most of myself. But we can only give so much of ourselves as we are putting into our own cup. And I think that's something that I've learned, that moving forward, I won't compromise. It's like, if I have to make sure I'm putting certain things into place so that therefore I am taking care of myself and my family and, all that wonderful stuff. But like, first and foremost, for me, that means making sure to at least get out and walk 15 minutes a day. My goal for the New Year's, I'd be like, oh, I want to find different like trails in my area that are really cool, because I love nature. I was like, I can't. And that also too, as I think about it, that's where inspiration comes. That's where a lot of stuff that we can do when it comes to our songwriting, or as artists, we can be creating, just even looking around and gathering up that that experience. For me, health wise, and I would say to you singers, that's so, so, so important. Anyone. But like taking care of yourself physically so you have the energy, that may mean that doing food testing. Like, I'm not a nutritionist, I don't claim to be, but there are definite things that have helped as I look back that I wasn't doing that I now am doing. Drinking, lemon water. If there's any kind of mucus, that mucus great dissolvent is you can literally drink salt water, and you could steam it, you can breathe it in. People always talk about having issues with their vocals or certain things. Manuka honey is amazing. Manuka honey, lemon, apple cider vinegar, a nice cocktail for the morning to keep the sinuses nice and open. That's really important, and that's stuff I'm not going to compensate on. And so I go off on this because he looked, I think just yesterday, it's like so many are like, wow, how can that happen? And I think just like how, in my case, how did I end up with cancer? Like, for me, it was like, I never in a million years would have ever thought that I would end up with cancer. And so, therefore, the mind state was, I didn't think that would get me. So, I can keep pushing off these things till I hit certain thresholds, never recognizing when I hit certain thresholds, I kind of just push it aside and move on to the next one, right? And so, and that was at the expense of self-care. And so I would say to you all that it's so important as we move into the new year that maybe you take that mental check. What do you need to be doing for your own self? And it's not selfish. Selfish is when you're just consumed with only yourself, and not necessarily maybe expanding into other things, but that's for another thing. But I think, what are you doing for yourself to check in, to make sure that you are able to continue to create and produce and thrive? And part of life is stress, and people handle that differently. And sometimes, naturopathically, whatever, it can be certain allergens or foods that you're taking that can help your body best manage those things. And other time, it's like spiritually, whatever that means to you, doing certain things. But I can't stress it enough. I think we see over and over these cases and it seems like, what? But then, when we kind of can, I don't know about you, but maybe reflecting on, oh yeah, I could see how that happens. I could see how giving and filling other people's cups, your kids, your wife, your husband, the people around you, is so important, and it's such a big part. And I find most artists, that's why they want to create art, is because they love the experience of giving to others. But make sure it's not at the expense of yourself. Make sure that you're taking the time for self-care. Make sure you're taking the time if something is going off, if you're feeling like frazzled, if you feel like you're in this rat race and the creating is really stuck, take a week, take a day, take a couple weeks. Maybe this is a rejuvenating time for you. Don't worry about social media and the statistics that come out. Because we see over and over that people with these statistics, right? We see the Selena Gomez's and, these different situations where you're like, how? They have such high, like, what we'd call success stats, and they still seem like they're searching. And it's because I think we're always going to be searching. So embrace those small wins. Take care of yourself mentally and physically, because I think sometimes the two can be intertwined. And as you move into the new year, reflect. See if there's anything you can. People say, oh, it's cheesy in the new year, new goals. But I really do. I'm big into like refreshing goals as you go along. But I think it's a great time because there's a heightened awareness that like, okay, now we're like in it. And, there's that element there. And there was nothing wrong with doing that. And do not, if I can pass on, do not play the comparison game. It will rob you. What do they say? The comparison game robs you of so much happiness. Because you're, and it's so hard as artists. I get it, as people in general. Like, we could do that. But it really, really can. And when you create good work, it will get to the right people. And I think you should take that satisfaction of what you just did, because not always will people do what you're doing. Not always will people approach this. They're too there's a lot of like, oh, I can't. So you've already taken that step. So you should be proud of yourself on that way. And be sure to do these checks. Check your life, check your surroundings, make sure you're immersed with good people. That's another, for another whole topic. And I talk about that frequently and so forth. So I hope as you're in the holiday season, whatever it is you may celebrate, that you are taking the time and reflecting and making sure you're checking in, and do not wait to start. That is huge. I pass it on to everyone now that I know. I'm like, please do not wait and say, oh, I can do that tomorrow. Oh, I can. Because I thought I had all these tomorrows, right? A lot of times we think we have all these tomorrows, and thank God I still have more tomorrows. That's my plan. But don't wait till you're sitting there and you're going, I have to shove all of my career aspirations aside, because right now I'm dealing with the diagnoses that, you know, if I don't fight this thing, I'm not going to have any more tomorrows. And so that's what I pin with you all is, please do yourself a favor. Don't put the I'll wait till tomorrow thing. If it's something that needs to happen for your betterment, do it today. All right, guys. Bye now.